This interview is from Chat City, Preston FM's mid-morning magazine show, live weekdays from 10 till noon.
And Chat City is Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. through to noon, and we'd love to hear from you. Now, before 1918, no women were allowed to vote in parliamentary elections in this country. And in the earlier 20th century, there were two main groups active in the campaign for women's suffrage. A term used to describe the right to vote. And the two groups were the suffragists and the suffragettes, who, through various means, campaigned for women to be able to vote in this country. And the Prime Minister, David Cameron, has said, when it comes to women in Parliament, that this is fantastically important and we need to do more, much more. And Labour leader Ed Miliband said the reason representation matters is because it shapes the policies. And Vince Cable has said he also considers that the Secretary of State for Business, of course, Innovation and Skills, has asked corporations to include a certain number of women on their boards because it benefits business. And yet, did you know that 77% of MPs in the House of Commons are men? 51% of society is made up of women, yet they have only 23% of the seats in Parliament, where all the laws are passed and decisions are made for the future of our country and society. And on the phone to talk about this and also about the 50-50 campaign is Frances Scott. So Frances, a very good morning to you.
Morning, Hughie. I'm pleased to hear it's sunny up in Preston. It's raining here in London.
Is that right? So it's a damp day down there.
Yeah.
Now, certainly, there's nothing more obvious than whenever you watch Parliament on TV, the lack of females that appear, particularly on the front benches down there in Parliament. Yeah. So tell us a little, Frances, about the 50-50 campaign.
Well, first I want to say it's really kind of you, to invite me to come on to Chat City. And I'm really pleased to be talking to people in Preston. My mother was born in Southport, and I've heard a lot about Lord Street over the years. Anyway, moving on to 50-50. The key thing is that this is an apolitical aspiration. It's a cross-party sort of target or request for gender equality in the House of Commons. And the other important thing is that we're asking for debate. We're not giving a solution. And that's why we've put up a petition online, because Parliament have said that if there are around 100,000 signatures on a petition, then an issue might be debated in the House of Commons. So basically what 50-50 Parliament is an online petition, and we're asking, people to sign it if they'd like gender equality in the House of Commons to be discussed by Parliament, and if they'd like Parliament to try and find some kind of solution, because as you rightly say, at the minute 77% of MPs are men, and 51%, in fact the majority of the population are women, but they only have 23% of the seats. You also mentioned Vince Cable, a bit like Vince Cable asking corporations to include more women on boards. We're doing the same. We're not telling Parliament how to do it. We're asking them to come up with a solution. Vince Cable hasn't told, corporations how to include women on their boards. He's just asked them to do it. So it's along the same lines. And we'd love people to sign. Let me give you our website address. It's www.5050parliament.co.uk. And there's a direct link to the petition if people, would like to look at it and agree that maybe something should be done about this.
And we may be about to have the first female Director General of the BBC, but why do you think it is that we don't have more female MPs in Parliament?
I don't really know the answer to that question. It's a tricky one, really. There's some evidence that female candidates aren't given the winnable seats in quite the same way, although Labour's been better at that than the Tories, but this is, as I say, sort of a political petition. So that's really for, Parliament to look into and address. Sometimes people use motherhood as a reason for women not wanting to be involved, but I find that a curious answer. Men are parents too. It's important to have women involved, precisely because they are mothers. The average age of most MPs is 50, or the average age currently of MPs is 50. So, by 50, women over 50 could be involved. There is a campaign at the minute called Returnerships, encouraging women to come back into the workplace after they've had children and that kind of stuff. So I don't know the full answer to that, but this question needs to be addressed.
And I realise that we've just undertaken the European elections, so they're just over, and I know there's also a 50-50 lobby for more women within the European campaigns. But when it comes to other countries, do they fare better than we do?
Well, yes, the European, I think we did have about 22 female Euro MPs. That represented about 32%. And I don't know, it probably end up being a little bit less because UKIP have slightly fewer women, but Labour has slightly more. So I don't quite know how that's going to balance out. But yes, we do. There are more women in the European Parliament. So that's good. But it also demonstrates that women are prepared to be involved. So that's good. The reasons that this is important, I've got loads of reasons why this is important. Would you be interested to hear those, or would you like to hear some more facts and figures?
No, it would be interesting to hear some of the reasons behind the campaign.
One of the reasons that was put forward by Professor Nagair Woods from Oxford University is that she says that we know that when women are in Parliament, it builds more resilient, better informed institutions. Someone else has said, apart from the obvious injustice, we're in no position to underutilise so much talent. Women have a wealth of relevant experience in paid and unpaid work. They account for 50% of graduates and 60% of law graduates in the UK. Another professor says the life experience of women is bound to be different to that of men and, needs to be represented in Parliament. One woman wrote on the petition, so that my ancestor suffragette did not die on Derby Day, for women to still be fighting for equal representation 100 years on. Another lovely comment, because when I grow up I want to be an MP, but I don't want to be in a minority.
Yes.
So, those are some reasons. There's another sort of interesting thing, coming back to the stats. 73 countries have proportionally more women MPs. So, they've sorted out better than the UK. That proves that it can be done. And sometimes people say, oh, it's going to happen anyway, why fuss? But actually, on the basis of the last 3 elections, we've actually had only 8 extra women gain seats. And if it carries on like that, then it's going to take, 100 years for there to be sort of a 50-50 balanced parliament. And we want equal seats because we think that the country needs the best of both.
Yes.
The best men and the best women working together and deciding for our future.
And as you said, the organisation, it's apolitical. So what access do you have to the political parties, and how do they respond to the campaign?
Well, I think it's early days. We've sort of got... we haven't really got enough signatures yet to engage in that kind of discussion with the political parties, so I'm really asking everyone to sign because this is such an important issue. Many changes are taking place for women in our society, fantastic changes, but it means that women have more liberation now. They can go out to work, or they can be more financially independent, and that's all very good. But it does have consequences on society, and these things need to be debated in the House of Commons. And women who are part of that need to be there to be talking about it and deciding on the future of society as well.
And outside the political arena, I mean, you've got the support of people like Jenny Murray.
Oh, yeah. No, let me tell you, that was amazing. How people can help, as I say, is by signing the petition, which is at www.5050parliament.co.uk. And the background to all this is I've been thinking about it for, I don't know, nearly 10 years. But I've got 4 kids and a part-time job, so I haven't had time. My son, my second child, went to university in September, and suddenly there was more time. And I heard men talking about gender equality on the radio. And a young man said, a young man was also debating it or discussing it with me, and he said, "You know what, Francis? You should you should register the domain name 5050 Parliament. It's available." So interestingly enough, it was the encouragement of 1 or 2 men that sort of got me on this path. And my eldest daughter said, the No More Page 3 campaign, they have a petition. Why don't you do that? And so the No More Page 3 campaign is campaigning to drop page 3 in the Sun. And so, I was impressed with that. And I thought, well, I'll do the same as them. So I put up a petition, and I got some T-shirts. And then I went along to something called 1 Billion Rising on Valentine's Day. And I met Baroness Scotland, and she's an amazing lawyer, and she has a seat in the House of Lords. And she saw me in my T-shirt. And she said, I'll wear one of those. And so I gave her a T-shirt, and there were a few of us. And I thought, crikey, she's prepared to do that. That's pretty impressive. Then on International Women's Day, I was on a march organised by Care International to raise money for girls in poverty in the Third World. And I met Dr. Helen Pankhurst, who's great-granddaughter of Emmeline Pankhurst. And she said, I'll be photographed with you in front of the House of Commons. So, that was amazing. And I also met Lucy Ann Holmes, who set up the No More Page 3 campaign. And she said, we support that. And she had a photograph taken with us. And then I went to the Royal Festival Hall for something called the Women of the World Festival. And there were many, young women and young men there who were all enthusiastic and wearing the shirt and stuff like this. And then I lined up to ask Ruby Wax to sign her new book, which is called Same New World. And I said, would you have a photo with the 50/50 shirt? And, she said, no problem. And so I took a photograph of her. And then, as you say, people kept saying, you must talk to an organisation. There must be other people interested in gender equality. And I thought, okay, I'll call the Fawcett Society. So, because they've been campaigning for gender equality ever since the suffragists who you mentioned. They were set up in 1866. And they were amazing. They said, yes, we'd be delighted to support this. And Jenny Murray, as you say, the Radio 4 presenter of Women's Hour, she said, I'll be photographed with the T-shirts, so show support. And since then, many local Fawcett societies have been wearing the shirt and tweeting it and stuff like that and signing the petition. So it's been fantastic. I've met some wonderful people, including Laura Bates, who set up the Everyday Sexism Project. And the chapter 2 of her book is about sexism politics, which I didn't realise existed. And then another amazing woman called Caroline Criado Perez, who she campaigned to get Jane Austen on banknotes.
Yes,
that was successful.
Yes.
And she set up something else called Name Equality, and they tweeted me the other day, and they said, if we had more women in Parliament, we might not need all these petitions. So that's some of the background.
So Francis, after all this campaigning, has it not given you the desire to stand for politics yourself in the future?
Well, that's an interesting question, and of course it's one that people ask. But I considered that. But actually, you know what? It's much more important to me that there are lots of women in Parliament, and just me isn't good enough. If we're going to have a parity by, say, the next 3 elections, by 2025, within my lifetime, then we need 60 extra women at each election. And that was done. I mean, the last time it was done was in 1997. there were 60 extra women, and that was with Labour going to a lot of considerable efforts to achieve that. So it is possible, but we really need to be. A Parliament needs to be thinking about this and taking action.
So, just give us again the 50/50 campaign where people can go to sign the petition, and in a few words, tell our listeners why they should sign the petition. Okay.
Well, the place to go to is our website, which is www.5050parliament.co.uk. There are no dots and no slashes because that really confuses the computer. So it's basically www.5050parliament.co.uk, and you'll find a link there to the petition. The reason is, because gender equality matters. Women need to be involved in formulating the future of our society, and the choices that women are going to be making over the next 50 years are going to have profound consequences, and they need to be at the table of government formulating strategy. And by the way, men think so too. It was men that started me on this path, and I've had a lot of fantastic men supporting this campaign. It's not just a women's thing. Women are interested in many things. I've heard women talking about economics. Recently, I heard some women talking about railways. And women clearly need to be there to be talking about, issues that affect women. And by the way, women have, being mothers, we've got loads of experience of education. Our kids are in school. We meet them afterwards. We've got loads of experience of National Health Service. We've had babies, and well, not all of us, but some of us. But if you are a mum, you've had experience of an NHS.
And
so we've got wide experience. It needs to be represented in Parliament.
Yes, and as I said, maybe the first female Director General of the BBC coming quite soon. Frances, been a pleasure to talk to you this morning. I can see and hear you're very passionate about the 50/50 campaign, and I'm sure our listeners are going to be signing up to that. But it's lovely to talk to you, and maybe talk to you again in the not too distant future.
Look, that would be fantastic, and thank you so much for presenting, 50/50 campaign with this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Frances. Bye-bye.
Bye.
For all the latest community news and events,
103.2 Preston FM.
Your community, your radio.